Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Wednesday, September 30th, last day of September, Kentucky game week, Lexington, Kentucky, 3 o'clock Saturday on the SEC Network. Tune in and enjoy it with all of us. Well, I'm thinking about setting up on the Facebook page a watch party and just mixing it with the game, and that way you can kind of converse and talk to people in a free message board setting. So that's something I'm considering doing. If you think that's a good idea, hit me up at positivelyolemiss@gmail.com. That's something we can look into in the immediacy. All right, let's handle a little business. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheStephenWillis or at @OlePositively. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. Follow the group at Positively Ole Miss. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Positively Ole Miss. Hit the bell for notifications. And our Twitch channel is available as well. Positively Ole Miss, all one words. We're on all the podcatchers. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio. And here in the next week or so, we'll be on iHeartRadio and Pandora. Basically, everywhere that you are already, where you're consuming content, we are there. So that's kind of cool that we can say that, and it's even better that that's available for you because this is all about free content. Speaking of free content, in segment 2 today, Nate Gabler of the Grove Report is going to stop by to talk Ole Miss, Kentucky, and all manner of stuff around the league. It was a good conversation. Tune in for that. And we're also going to talk about the Ole Miss offense and where we can improve. I know that's really hard to do whenever you put up 612 yards against number 5, but there is some definite improvement on that side of the ball that's coming up. Now, well, let's just get into it because it's a fun topic and it's something that people need to understand. This offense is the Baylor offense that Art Briles made famous at Baylor. If you follow our Boot Camp the Offense series, which is down below, you can see the transition as that was what we were using as the first data point. Now this is the first data point, and it's basically the same offense. Now, there's room for improvement. A lot of improvement on the offense. Now, Matt Corral completed 5 deep balls for over 200 yards. Over half of his pass offense came on 5 completions. We need to keep that in mind. Now, the jet sweep, the motion was going at half speed. It was more about timing up to that snap because they don't have the reps to do it at full speed now. The timing's going to get messed up. There's a lot of Elijah Moore jogging over and as soon as a snap going to a spot. Well, that's eventually going to be a full speed run. Whenever that timing is matched up and the reps and the comfortability come into play, that jet sweep motion is going to be full speed. Now, why is that important? Well, the jet sweep is designed to get the corner even if you don't block the defensive end. You can just avoid him. So the linebackers have to flow quicker to get there. They have to be aware that that can happen. So it opens up the false step and playing with the defense, which we kind of did this weekend. We really affected their safety after the targeting call early. I think the backup was one of the 6 out with COVID. And so there was a third stringer in safety. So there's some improvement that needs to make. Now, if we look at wide receivers, Dontario Drummond played a good game. He showed. Jonathan Mingo, we have to expect more from him. If he's going to be the alpha of that room, you have to expect more. Period. I mean, that is just the bottom line. You have Elijah Moore. You have Kenny Yeboah, who looked really good as well as a tight end in the fourth quarter. So perhaps Yeboah is the second option. If you look at the Boot Camp the Offense series, their first option was the tight end. He was the leader. But the second was D'Angelo Antoine, who was the jet sweep slot guy, Elijah Moore. So the offense is designed to take advantage of the middle of the field. The outside guys they're going to be thrown a bone a couple of times, but they are glorified blockers in the run game. I mean, this was a 60-40 run to pass balance Saturday against number 5. And if you look at it, we had 38 plays with 7 minutes to go in the second quarter. So through a quarter and a half. After Florida just went methodical and had the ball for a good bit of time in the middle, we ended up with like 74 for the game. So through 2.5 quarters, we were at 32-ish plays. Through a quarter and a half, 38. Through 2.5, 32. So there's just improvement through the system that will come with reps. There's going to be a jump from week 1 to week 2. I do not expect to see it from Matt Corral. I think he's going to come down a little bit. And that's not anything against Matt. That's just he threw for 400 yards in his debut. Is going to drop down a little bit. Jerry and Ely, the running back room, I expect to see Henry Parrish more. I honestly expect to see a similar breakdown of plays. Whenever they go really fast, there's a lot of repeat calls, especially in the run game. They kind of run it until you stop it, and that's going to be beneficial in the future. We will be able to use that. But this whole offense is predicated on massive tempo, simple offense, but they're counting on you to make a mistake because of the massive tempo. A false step on the jet sweep that goes to his inside zone. They mess with linebackers. They mess with safeties. They do a lot of work in the middle of the field, and that will serve them well in the SEC. And seeing all that man coverage and all the super athletes on the outside. That's segment 1. Stephen Willis, POMcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen. As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, POMcast, Stephen Willis, thanks for tuning in. We got a great segment in store for you today. Nate Gabler from the Grove Report and Behind Enemy Sidelines podcast stop by to talk a little SEC football. And that really, I mean, it's kind of nice just to talk SEC football and go game by game and break things down. And we started talking about Vanderbilt. And, I mean, you know what? You'll hear. Nate Gabler from the Grove Report here joining us on Around the SEC. We're going to talk about Ole Miss versus Kentucky, Lexington, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the SEC Network. How you doing, Nate?
Doing well. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I am doing fantastic. I just want to, this game is going to be one that people turn to later on because the Texas A&M Alabama game gets out of hand at some point. So we can kind of break this down in a way like, what are you looking for as a key point of this game, and what do you expect to happen?
I think primarily for Ole Miss, it's whether or not they can run the football against Kentucky. I mean, you look at this Kentucky team, they hold Auburn to under 100 yards. I want to say it was like 91 or so on the ground. Obviously, Ole Miss this past weekend against Florida, it was more of a game through the air. I mean, Corral goes for 395 passing, but if you look at it, they actually still ran the ball more than they passed. So, I mean, it's still a team that wants to try to set up the passing game through the running game. So I think it's looking at it from that side, it's whether or not Ole Miss can run on Kentucky a little bit. And then the other way, Kentucky is the best offensive line in the SEC. No one really wants to talk about that because it's Kentucky. And Ole Miss really struggled to get home against Kyle Trask last week. So can they pressure Wilson back there, who obviously is less of a passer than Trask is, but they're going to have to get home against this offensive line that's as good as we've seen in a while.
Now, and I expect with the jump from week 1 to week 2, a little bit of improvement there, and especially in the secondary, although the secondary can't be asked to cover somebody for 7 seconds. What do you see going on in the Ole Miss defense that can be corrected?
I think, like I was saying there, the secondary needs to cover better, but, passing game, it's as much of getting after the quarterback as it is covering on the back end. I look at a guy like Ryder Anderson, who this week is credited for 3 quarterback hurries and a hit, but pretty much gets no stats in the game, like as far as, traditional counting stats, sacks, tackles, stuff like that. So if guys can go from being around the quarterback and being like at his feet and just being there to actually hitting Terry Wilson, I think that really – I think that's probably the most correctable thing in a 1-week time span.
Okay, and we're going to change around to a little bit of around the SEC. Your Vanderbilt Commodores got really close to winning College Station, Texas. Is Vanderbilt a better team than we thought they were?
No, they're not. Quickly plug my podcast over at Behind Enemy Sidelines that I do with our state team with Sports Illustrated. But we did a big picture, like SEC win totals preview going into last week. I think 2 of my best bets were that Vanderbilt and Arkansas both go winless. But another one that I really liked was I just have found it so hard to believe in Texas A&M over the past few years. And going into this year, it's even there's a weird number out there that like A&M has been ranked like preseason top 12. I think it's like 13 times this century. So dating back to like the turn of the century. And only twice have they actually finished higher than where they were ranked. It's a team that's always overrated. And the Kellen Mond, Jimbo Fisher thing is another one. If you thought they were ever going to get it going, ever, it would be year 3 with Kellen Mond and Jimbo Fisher opening the season at Kyle Field against this terrible Vanderbilt team. And they stunk. So I look at that game as more of a Texas A&M is bad than a Vandy is good game. I would still pick Vandy to go 0-10.
Yeah, and Texas A&M was a 30.5-point favorite. They're not 30.5 points better than anybody. That was free money available to anybody willing to take it.
Yeah, you can also – I mean, we're recording this on, what is today, Tuesday night. You can get Alabama at minus 16.5 at some places against Texas A&M. I would do that.
It's crazy. Also, if you've noticed, the betting lines this week have shifted to heavy the home teams. I don't know if it's a function of the schedule or they're trying to figure out what's going on with this COVID situation and everything, and just leaning on the people that don't have to travel at the moment?
Yeah, I personally am trying not to buy into any of the home field advantage this year, just because, 25% stadium capacity or whatever is not enough to generate much fan noise, much disruption for a road team. So if I had to guess, I would bet that's just kind of coincidence. But hey, I don't know. I'm not the one setting these lines.
How do you feel about Mississippi State? I think they're giving away 18 points against Arkansas.
Like I said with Vandy, I think Arkansas is bad, and it's a team that is going to struggle to win a game. They put up a really good half against Georgia. Then Georgia comes in and changes their quarterback. Georgia still wasn't able to play JT Daniels in that game, but Georgia still comes out and scores, 27 unanswered in the second half or something like that. So they played a little better than I anticipated, especially against the run. They held Georgia under 3 yards of carry, but I would still take State again there.
And of course, how do you feel about Auburn and Georgia this weekend?
Auburn was a team I was really high on coming into the year. And, they were pretty impressive last week against Kentucky. So I don't know if it's me trying to just make my preseason I really like Bo Nix in year 2 pick correct. But I'll take Auburn, and what is it, that 6.5 points or so there?
Yeah. Yeah, all right. Nate Gabler, The Grove Report, and Behind the Enemy Sidelines podcast. Free content. We love free content. Go check him out. All right, Nate Gabler, we'd like to say thank you to him for coming by. And basically, we have a nice read on college football. You know, he comes by, drops some knowledge down, and we get a read on the Arkansas situation, the Vandy situation, and Auburn, Georgia, and all that stuff. You can tune in and hear it again on Around the SEC tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So, and as you saw last weekend, Around the SEC will double as the pregame show. So tune into that as well. So basically what you look at Kentucky is, a line of scrimmage offense, as you heard, coming up against Ole Miss, who like a strong offensive line versus a weak offensive line. This game will be won or lost by Terry Wilson. I know, shocking. But he'll be the one tasked with scoring enough points to defeat Ole Miss. I don't know if he'll be able to do it. I expect the defense to take a jump week 1 to week 2. You can't help it. They missed half of fall camp because of COVID in the secondary. So these reps that they're taking, these beatings that they're taking early are going to benefit them later. So that's one way you can look at this Ole Miss-Kentucky game. And Ole Miss on offense is going to be lightning quick. They're going to try to do a bunch of stuff. You got the Lane Kiffin shot plays. Everything that we predicted came true. It's amazing. And Ole Miss would have covered the game, but they chose not to, which is a very Nick Saban kind of thing to do. It was more important that the offense get that one rep in the red zone than to attempt a field goal. And that's the reason they didn't cover. I understand there's a lot of people upset, but when it comes to this, it really doesn't matter if a person is upset. If you're betting on Ole Miss, you have to take this into account because this is the way of life. Lane Kiffin doesn't care about covering. He cares about making his team better. This is the 3rd straight season opener of a top 5 team. They did Oklahoma and they did Ohio State. And they did Florida. That's a pretty impressive background. And they scored 21 points, I think, against each of them. That's crazy. Because the offense is working, and this looks like a situation where the offense is going to go. Just go. Full speed ahead. They're going to improve. Everybody is focusing on the defense, but the offense is going to take incremental steps as well. All of this is masked by putting up 612 yards or 620 yards or whatever it was against Florida. The run game is going to get better. All those freshmen on the field last year, it served them well Saturday as sophomores. Sophomore quarterback, 2 sophomore running backs, sophomore receiver. We didn't see much of Dennis Jackson or Jaden Jackson. That kind of surprised me a little bit. But this is going to expand. Everything had to be kept tight depth-wise because they didn't have the practices. No spring, no fall camp. So the best way to do it is to maximize reps of a small core. That core will expand over the next couple of weeks. This is an intentional build that they are doing. And it's a way to make them not take the growing pains as would be expected. Segment 2 in the books. We're coming back for segment 3. POMcast. Stephen Willis.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right, POMcast, Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. Ole Miss and Kentucky, Saturday in Lexington. Kickoff as at 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. Now, I wanted this to marinate a little bit, and I wanted you to see it because all the reporters, they fell into that exact trap of basically doing what they always do, pretending that they know what they're seeing and talking like they know what they're talking about. You're seeing it from everybody. Journalists pretending to know football while spending the better part of the last decade and a half not watching football means you don't know about football. You intentionally didn't learn the game. And now that everything has been taken away and your opinion matters on this situation in this period of time, you can't talk really intelligently about the sport. There's nobody to blame but you. There really isn't. And it's just hilarious. Just pay attention. They're going to continue to do it all season because I'm intentionally not naming names so that you will listen to what they're actually saying and how they're breaking it down. The same cliches, the same prisoner of the moment takes. They're just coming out. They're just crutches because we're in a situation, we're in a period of time where reporting doesn't matter. It's all based on your opinion. And you spending time not building that opinion is how we got here. There's a lot of great cliched takes. So if you want to pay attention, I'm thinking about recording them and putting on the podcast whenever we get a cliched take that doesn't know what they're talking about. Yeah, that will be fun. Now, I don't think one person that watched the Ole Miss game has mentioned the fact that they're about 60% run. They're all talking about Matt Corral throwing for 400 yards, 200 of which were on 5 completions. This is a power run system. It doesn't change. Lane Kiffin developed shot plays off of the power run system. It really isn't hard. There's no reinvention of the wheel. They're running the same stuff they ran 5 years ago at Baylor. Whenever they were winning all those games and putting up all that yards. Good grief, can't talk. But I just wanted to take this Wednesday to enjoy. This is me taking basically a victory lap, which I should have done whenever I've just basically, if you'd have listened to the podcast, I nailed the Florida game. The Boot Camp the Offense series nailed. It's fantastic. Also today at 6:30ish, Tysheem Johnson is expected to announce his commitment. We are feeling quite good that it will be Ole Miss at the moment. Although he has gone dark and could go other things. I don't know when it comes to recruiting. And the best part about recruiting in this system is they're looking at all avenues to make it happen. The grad transfer market, transfers, JUCOs. They've got 2 players from Canada and 1 from Germany, regular recruiting. It's like I said a couple of weeks ago. When Ole Miss is ranked 40th in the country and only has 16 signees on a signing day, but in the transfer portal got 3 all-conference players, how do you rate that? I think we need to recalibrate how we look at recruiting under Lane Kiffin. I think mentally we need to figure out how to do this in an efficient manner and basically look at it just from a different way. Because if you get 3 all-conference players, they're all ready-made players. Everybody you sign on signing day is a crapshoot. You don't know who is going to take off and who is going to sink down. If you get an all-conference player, this is close to a sure thing as you can get. Especially with the 1-year transfer situation coming into focus in the next year or so. Once that happens and you're immediately eligible, they're trying to do, if you notice, Lane Kiffin's trying to pressure the SEC to change the interconference transfer rules. That is so he can go get those second-tier players on Georgia and Alabama's rosters that might fit his systems better. That's why he's doing that. So, great show today. Thank you for watching or listening, and stick around, have a good time, have a beer, do whatever you have to do, and we will see you tomorrow right here on the POMcast. Thank you.